Jin Park pressed his forehead against the cool glass of the observation window, watching Earth rotate slowly in the distance. The agricultural research station orbited at the edge of the solar system, far enough to avoid interference, but close enough that he could still see home. 26 years old, and he'd been working here for 3 years, studying how to adopt Earth crops for alien environments. It wasn't glamorous work, but it mattered. Jin, stop daydreaming and help me with these soil samples, called Dr. Sarah Chen from across the greenhouse module. She was his supervisor, a brilliant xenobotanist who'd taken him under her wing when he first arrived. Coming, Jin replied, pulling himself away from the window. The greenhouse was his favorite part of the station. Rows of modified wheat, rice, and vegetables growing under artificial lights, each one adapted for different atmospheric conditions. Humanity's contribution to the galaxy, he thought with a mixture of pride and sadness. Because that's what humans were in the grand cosmic scheme. Contributors, not leaders, not conquerors, just useful laborers trying to earn their place among species that had been traveling the stars for millennia before Earth even discovered fire. The Zalarian Empire controlled this sector space. They were magnificent beings, tall and graceful, with crystalline skin that shifted colors based on their emotions and intricate bioluminescent patterns that marked their family lineages. They'd been kind enough to allow humanity into their territory, offering protection in exchange for human ingenuity in agriculture, medicine, and what they called primitive problem solving. It was better than being alone in the vast darkness, Jin supposed. Sample batch 47 is showing promising results, Sarah said, her eyes bright with excitement as Jin joined her at the analysis station. The nitrogen fixation rate is up by 18%. If we can replicate this in the next 3 batches. The emergency alarm cut her off mid-sentence. Red lights flooded the greenhouse and a harsh klaxon blared through the speakers. Jin's heart jumped into his throat. In 3 years, he'd never heard that alarm. It meant only one thing. A vessel was approaching with a medical emergency. All personnel to emergency stations, came the announcement in both English and Zalarian. Incoming royal vessel, medical emergency. Repeat, royal medical emergency. Jin and Sarah exchanged shocked glances. Royal? The Zalarian royal family never came to human stations. They had their own state-of-the-art medical facilities throughout the Empire. They rushed to the main docking bay, joining the handful of other humans and the 3 Zalarian scientists who worked on the station. Station Commander Williams was already there, his weathered face tight with tension. "What's the situation?" Sarah asked. "Crown Princess Lyra," Williams said grimly. "She's dying. Soul fracture syndrome. They've tried everything at the Imperial medical centers. This is their last hope. They've heard about Dr. Martinez's neurological research here and want him to examine her." Jin felt the weight of those words. Soul fracture syndrome was a rare Zalarian condition where the bioelectric pathways that powered their luminescent patterns became corrupted, creating cascading failures throughout their nervous system. It was excruciating and always fatal. No one had ever survived it. The docking bay doors irised open, revealing a sleek royal vessel, its hull the deep purple of the imperial family. The moment it locked into place, a dozen Zalarian guards poured out, their ceremonial armor gleaming, their faces set in grim determination. They were followed by physicians in white robes marked with medical symbols. Then came the princess. Jin had seen Zalarians before, but Princess Lyra was something else entirely. Even weakened by illness, she carried herself with quiet dignity. Her crystalline skin should have been a vibrant blue-violet, but it had faded to a sickly gray. The bioluminescent patterns that should have danced across her face and arms flickered weakly like dying stars. She was young, maybe equivalent to early 20s in human years, and she looked so fragile that Jin's heart ached just seeing her. 2 attendants supported her on either side. She moved slowly, each step clearly painful. Her eyes, large and multifaceted like opals, swept across the gathered humans with a mixture of curiosity and desperation. "Where is Dr. Martinez?" demanded the lead physician, a stern-looking Zalarian male whose patterns glowed angry red. Dr. Martinez, the station's neurological specialist, stepped forward. "I'm here. Please, bring her to the medical bay immediately." The procession moved through the station, and Jin found himself following along with several other staff members. They couldn't help, they weren't medical personnel, but something drew them forward. Perhaps it was the historic nature of the moment. Perhaps it was simple human compassion for someone suffering. The medical bay had been hastily prepared. Monitoring equipment hummed to life as Princess Lyra was carefully helped onto the examination platform. Dr. Martinez began his assessment while the Zalarian physicians watched with hawk-like intensity. Jin stood near the back of the room with Sarah, trying to stay out of the way. He watched the princess's face contort with pain as the scanners passed over her body. The corrupted bioelectric patterns were visible now, jagged, chaotic lines of sickly yellow light cutting through the fading blue of her natural markings. "The degradation is more advanced than our reports indicated," Dr. Martinez said quietly, studying the readouts. "The neural pathways are collapsing faster than any case I've read about. I'm not sure there's anything—" A sharp crack echoed through the medical bay. One of the overhead power conduits exploded, showering sparks across the room. The medical equipment screamed warnings as power surged and failed. Emergency systems kicked in, but not before the examination platform began to tilt, its stabilizers damaged by the power surge. Princess Lyra, weakened and disoriented, started to slide towards the edge. Jin didn't think, he just moved. He lunged forward, pushing past startled physicians and guards. His hands reached out to catch the princess before she could fall to the hard floor. His fingers wrapped around her crystalline arm, taking her weight as he steadied her against his chest. The moment their skin made contact, Jin felt it. A sensation like warm electricity flooded through his hands and up his arms. It wasn't painful. It was almost pleasant, like sinking into a hot bath after a long day. He felt a strange resonance, as if his heartbeat was synchronizing with something vast and ancient. Princess Lyra gasped. Her eyes went wide, and for a moment Jin saw his own reflection in their multifaceted depths. Then her bioluminescent patterns flared, not the sickly yellow of corruption, but brilliant blue-violet light that swept across her skin like dawn breaking over an ocean. The chaotic, jagged lines smoothed out, the flickering stabilized, color flooded back into her crystalline skin. Jin carefully helped her sit upright on the examination platform, then quickly pulled his hands away, suddenly aware that he'd just touched royalty without permission. His heart hammered in his chest. The entire medical bay had gone silent. Every Zalarian in the room stared at Princess Lyra with expressions of utter shock. The monitoring equipment beeped frantically as her vital signs transformed before their eyes. Princess Lyra looked down at her arms, watching her bioluminescent patterns pulse with healthy light. She flexed her fingers experimentally, and Jin could see the wonder in her face. "The pain," she whispered in accented but clear English. Her voice was melodic, like wind chimes. "It's gone. For the first time in months, the pain is gone." The lead physician rushed forward, his own patterns flashing in rapid sequence. Shock, disbelief, calculation. "Impossible. The readings show your bioelectric field has stabilized. The corrupted pathways are reorganizing. This shouldn't be possible." All eyes turned to Jin. He stood frozen, his hands still tingling from the contact. I didn't do anything. I just caught her. I was just trying to help." One of the guards stepped forward, his hand moving to the weapon at his belt. "What did you do to the princess? What device did you use?" "No device," Dr. Martinez interjected, his voice sharp. "I was watching. He simply touched her. Direct physical contact, nothing more." Princess Lyra raised one elegant hand, silencing everyone. When she spoke, her voice was stronger than before. "He speaks the truth. I felt it when he touched me. Something shifted inside. The chaos that's been consuming me from within, it calmed, like a discordant note finding harmony." She looked directly at Jin, and he felt the full weight of her gaze. "What is your name?" "Jin Park, Your Highness." His voice came out steadier than he felt. "Jin Park." She repeated it slowly, as if tasting each syllable. "You have done something that the Empire's greatest healers could not do. You've given me a moment without suffering. I don't understand how, but I am grateful." The Zalarian physician was frantically working with a handheld scanner, passing it over Jin's hands. "His bioelectric signature is unlike anything in our database. The frequency patterns don't match any known species. It's as if—" He trailed off, his patterns flickering with confusion. "As if what?" demanded one of the guards. "As if his nervous system operates on a completely different harmonic frequency, one that somehow interrupted the princess's corrupted patterns." Before anyone could respond, another figure entered the medical bay. The temperature in the room seemed to drop despite the environmental controls. Every Zalarian immediately dropped into a deep bow. Jin didn't need to be told who had arrived. Emperor Solvin, ruler of the Zalarian Empire, stood in the doorway. He was massive by Zalarian standards, nearly 7 feet tall, with skin that shifted between deep purple and midnight blue. His bioluminescent patterns were intricate beyond anything Jin had ever seen. Entire constellations seemed to dance across his crystalline form. His eyes held the weight of centuries, and when he looked at Jin, the human felt simultaneously insignificant and strangely visible. "Father," Princess Lyra said, and Jin heard genuine warmth in her voice. The Emperor crossed the room in 3 long strides. His gaze swept over his daughter, and Jin saw the hardness in his expression crack for just a moment, revealing the desperate hope of a parent watching their child suffer. "Lyra, they told me you were dying. They said—" His voice caught. "I see color in your face again." "It was him, Father." She gestured to Jin. "The human. He touched me and something changed." Emperor Solvin turned his full attention to Jin. The human resisted the urge to step backward. Those ancient eyes studied him like he was a puzzle that needed solving. "Your name, human?" "Jin Park, Your Majesty." Jin bowed clumsily, suddenly aware he didn't know the proper protocol for greeting an emperor. "Jin Park." The emperor's voice was deep and resonant. "In one accidental moment, you have accomplished what my empire's finest minds could not. You have brought relief to my daughter's suffering." He paused, his patterns shifting to contemplative silver. "I do not understand how this is possible, but I intend to find out." He turned to the lead physician. "Begin a comprehensive investigation immediately. I want every test, every scan, every analysis available, and I want to know if this can be replicated." Then his gaze returned to Jin. "You will remain on this station. You will cooperate fully with all examinations and tests. My daughter's life hangs in the balance. Do you understand?" It wasn't really a question. It was an imperial command wrapped in polite language. Jin nodded. "Yes, Your Majesty. I'll help however I can." The Emperor studied him a moment longer, then nodded. "Good. I will have additional medical personnel and equipment transported here within the hour." He moved to his daughter's side, taking her hand with surprising gentleness. "How do you feel, my light?" "Better than I have in a very long time," Princess Lyra said softly. She glanced at Jin. "Though I can already feel some of the symptoms returning. The effect is fading." "Then we must work quickly," the Emperor said. He looked at Dr. Martinez. "You will coordinate with my physicians. Full access to your facilities and research. Whatever you need, it is yours." As the Emperor conferred with the medical team, Sarah moved close to Jin and whispered, "What have you gotten yourself into?" Jin had no answer. He looked at Princess Lyra, who was already being surrounded by physicians conducting new scans. For a moment, their eyes met across the busy medical bay, and she gave him a small nod, gratitude mixed with something that might have been hope. In that instant, Jin understood that his life had fundamentally changed. He was no longer just a botanist studying soil samples and crop yields. Somehow, through pure accident, he'd become important. He'd become necessary, and he had absolutely no idea what that would mean. The investigation was about to begin, and nothing would ever be the same. The next 5 days blurred together into an exhausting routine of tests, scans, and questions. Scientists from across the Zolarian Empire descended on the agricultural station like a swarm, transforming the small research outpost into a bustling hub of medical investigation. Jin barely slept. Every morning began with blood draws, neural scans, and electromagnetic field mapping. Afternoon sessions involved sitting perfectly still while various instruments measured his bioelectric output. Evenings were filled with interviews, the same questions asked a dozen different ways by a dozen different researchers. How did you do it? I don't know, it just happened. Did you feel anything unusual? Just a warm tingling, like gentle electricity. Can you control this ability? I don't know, I've never tried. Through it all, Dr. Sarah Chen remained his constant advocate, ensuring he got enough food and rest, pushing back when the researchers became too demanding. Commander Williams coordinated with the Zolarian officials, his diplomatic skills working overtime to manage the sudden transformation of his quiet station into something resembling a diplomatic summit. But the most important part of Jin's new routine were the treatment sessions with Princess Lyra. Twice daily, he was brought to her private medical suite, a section of the station that had been converted into quarters befitting royalty. The first time he entered, Jin was struck by how the Zolarians had managed to make this sterile human architecture feel almost palatial. Flowing fabrics in deep purples and blues draped the walls. Bioluminescent plants from the Zolarian homeworld filled corners with soft light, and the air carried a faint scent of something like jasmine mixed with ozone. Princess Lyra sat by a viewport, gazing at the stars. When she heard him enter, she turned and smiled, a genuine expression that made her patterns pulse with warm golden light. Jin Park, thank you for coming. Your Highness, he bowed, still uncertain of the proper etiquette. Please, when we're alone, just call me Lyra. We're going to be spending considerable time together. Formality seems exhausting. The lead physician, whose name Jin had learned was Healer Zethrin, explained the procedure. Jin would place his hands on specific points along Lyra's arms and shoulders, areas where the bioelectric pathways were most accessible. The contact needed to last at least 10 minutes for optimal effect. That first deliberate session was awkward. Jin was acutely aware that he was touching royalty, that guards stood just outside the door, that his hands on her crystalline skin could be seen as presumptuous. But the moment contact was made, all those concerns faded. The warm electrical sensation returned, stronger this time, because he was expecting it. He could almost feel the chaotic patterns in Lyra's nervous system, like static on an old radio, and sense his own bioelectric field somehow smoothing them out, bringing order to chaos. Lyra sighed with relief. There it is, like cool water on a burn. They sat in silence for a few minutes. Then Lyra spoke softly. May I ask you something? Of course. Why did you agree to help me? You could have refused. My father commanded you, yes, but you said yes before he even asked. Why? Jin thought carefully about his answer. Because you were suffering. Because I might be able to help. That's reason enough, isn't it? Lyra's patterns flickered with surprise. Pale blue shot through with silver. That's all? No thought of reward? No political calculation? No desire to elevate your species' standing? Should there be? In my world, everything has a price, Lyra said quietly. Every favor, every alliance, every gesture. The idea of helping someone simply because they need help. She paused. We've forgotten that, I think. Or maybe we never knew it. Over the following days, the sessions became less awkward and more companionable. They talked about everything. Lyra told him about growing up in the imperial palace, about the weight of being the crown princess, about her secret passion for xenobiology that her position never allowed her to pursue properly. Jin told her about Earth, about Seoul's bustling streets, about his parents who ran a small restaurant and were so proud when their son was selected for the off-world program. He described Earth's incredible biodiversity, its chaotic ecosystems, the way millions of different species competed and cooperated in an endless dance of survival. "Your planet sounds messy," Lyra said one day, but her tone was curious rather than critical. "It is," Jin admitted. "Beautifully, wonderfully messy. Nothing is standardized. Nothing follows neat rules. Life just finds a way." "Perhaps that's why you can help me," Lyra mused. "Your whole species evolved in chaos. Maybe your bioelectric systems had to be flexible, adaptable." She was closer to the truth than she knew. On the 6th day, Dr. Sarah Chen called an emergency meeting. Jin, Commander Williams, and the senior Zolarian researchers gathered in the main conference room. Sarah's face was flushed with excitement, her hands trembling slightly as she pulled up holographic displays. "We found it," she announced. "The reason humans can do this." The holograms showed complex patterns of electromagnetic frequencies, neural pathway diagrams, and comparative biology charts that made Jin's head spin. "Every species generates bioelectric fields," Sarah explained. "It's how neurons communicate, how muscles contract, how bodies function. Most spacefaring species evolved on planets with relatively stable electromagnetic environments. Their bioelectric frequencies are similar, variations on a theme." She highlighted a cluster of data points representing various alien species. They were all grouped closely together on the frequency spectrum. But Earth, Sarah's finger moved to a wildly different data point, far outside the main cluster. Earth's electromagnetic field is unusually chaotic. Our planet has a liquid metal core that generates a complex, dynamic magnetic field. We have intense solar radiation that our atmosphere filters in unique ways. We evolved alongside millions of other species, each generating their own bioelectric signatures. She looked around the room. Humans didn't evolve in stability. We evolved in electromagnetic chaos. Our bioelectric systems had to be incredibly flexible, incredibly adaptable. We're not locked into a single frequency like most species. We're harmonic. Healer Zethrin leaned forward, his patterns flickering with understanding. "A universal adapter, that's what you're saying. Human bioelectric fields can resonate with almost any other species." "Exactly." Sarah pulled up another display. "Princess Lyra's soul fracture syndrome is caused by corrupted bioelectric patterns that reinforce themselves, a feedback loop. Zolarian medicine can't break that loop because it operates within the same frequency range. It's like trying to fix a broken song by playing the same broken notes." "But humans," Jin said slowly, understanding dawning, "operate outside that range," Sarah finished. "When you touch someone like Princess Lyra, your bioelectric field doesn't reinforce the corrupted patterns. It introduces a completely different harmonic that disrupts the feedback loop. You're a reset button, Jin. You force the system out of its destructive pattern and give it a chance to find stability again." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications. "This is extraordinary," Healer Zethrin finally said. "If this is true, humans could potentially help not just Zolarians, but dozens of other species with bioelectric disorders." Commander Williams cleared his throat. "With respect, this also makes humans incredibly valuable. That kind of value, it changes things." He was right, and Jin felt a chill run down his spine. Being useful was one thing, being invaluable was something else entirely. "There's one more thing," Sarah said, her expression darkening. "The effect is temporary. Princess Lyra's symptoms return within 48 to 72 hours after treatment. Without regular contact with the human harmonizer, she'll eventually succumb to the syndrome." "So it's not a cure, it's just management," Jin said. "For now," Sarah agreed. "But it proves that a cure is possible. We just need to understand the mechanism better." That evening, Jin was summoned to Emperor Sullivan's temporary quarters aboard the royal vessel docked with the station. He walked through corridors lined with guards, their patterns set in watchful red, until he reached the Emperor's private office. The Emperor stood before a massive viewport showing Earth in the distance. He didn't turn when Jin entered. "My daughter is deteriorating again," the Emperor said quietly. "The pain has returned. The corrupted patterns are reasserting themselves." "I know, Your Majesty. I'm scheduled for another session with her tomorrow morning." "That's not why I summoned you." Emperor Sylvan finally turned, and Jin was struck by how tired he looked. The weight of ruling an empire showed in every line of his crystalline face. "I want to ask you something, Jin Park, not as an emperor, but as a father." The shift in tone surprised Jin. "Your Majesty?" "My daughter is dying. The treatments you provide give her temporary relief, but without a permanent solution, she will eventually weaken to the point where even your touch cannot help her. The researchers say it could take years to develop a true cure." The Emperor's patterns flickered with barely contained emotion. "I am asking you, not commanding, asking to stay, to continue treating Lyra regularly until we find that cure. Will you help her?" Jin didn't hesitate. "Yes, of course I will." Relief washed over the Emperor's face. "Thank you. You will be given quarters near the medical facilities. Whatever you need, whatever resources might make this easier for you, you will have them. He paused, seeming to struggle with words. "I will not forget this kindness." As Jin left the Emperor's quarters, he felt the weight of the commitment he'd just made. His life as a botanist was over. For the foreseeable future, he would be Princess Lyra's living medicine, bound to her survival. But something else troubled him. He'd noticed increased security around the station, encrypted communications being routed through channels he couldn't access, and the way some of the Zalarian officials watched him, not with gratitude, but with calculation. He wasn't the only one who'd noticed. 3 sectors away, on a military vessel that maintained a careful distance from the agricultural station, Commander Vex stood in his war room studying holographic displays. His second-in-command, Colonel Thane, stood at attention beside him. "The human has agreed to stay," Thane reported. "He'll be treating the princess indefinitely." Commander Vex's patterns flickered dark red, anger mixed with determination. He was a career military officer, descended from a long line of warriors who had built and maintained the Zalarian Empire's dominance. To him, strength was everything. Weakness was unacceptable, and needing help from humans, inferior, primitive humans, was the ultimate weakness. "This situation is untenable," Vex said flatly. "We are the Zalarian